Perhaps there's a phrase you've said to God countless times, not out of malice, but simply because you didn't realize how dangerous it was. Words that sound humble, words that sound honest, words that, every day, cause millions of believers to close with their own hands the doors God is preparing to open without even realizing it. Today, I'm going to show you something that will change your prayer life forever. Things you should never say to God and how they can block the blessings, peace, and destiny He has prepared for your life. The Bible doesn't mince words when it comes to the power of words. Proverbs 18:21 says, "The tongue holds the power of life and death." Words are not just sounds. They seem okay, are spiritual declarations. And when you speak the wrong words to God, even if your intentions are good, you may unwittingly close the doors He is preparing to open. Now, let's look at each one individually. I am not worthy. This is the most dangerous phrase, repeated every day by millions of believers. There was a woman I knew, someone with deep faith, a sincere heart, and a spirit of service to others above all else. But every time we prayed, she would begin with the same words, "Lord, I know I'm not worthy enough for you to hear me." At first, I thought this was humility, but over time, I realized that this woman could never find peace in prayer. She always felt distant from God. This was exactly the reason. Every time she prayed, she was telling a lie about her spiritual identity. Listen carefully. Saying, "I'm not worthy," is not humility. It is a rejection of everything Jesus did on the cross. Romans 5:8 says, "But God demonstrates His own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us." He didn't wait for you to be worthy. He loved you at your worst. And Jesus' blood made you worthy not by your own works, but by grace alone. When you say, "I'm not worthy," you're unknowingly declaring that Jesus' blood isn't enough, and that's far more dangerous than most people realize. "Why aren't you helping me?" This is a phrase born of pain, but it can erect an invisible wall between you and God. I understand the pain behind this question. There are times in life when everything falls apart, when prayer seems meaningless, and when God seems completely silent. In those moments, your heart cries out, "Why aren't you helping me?" But you need to understand this. This question, spoken in pain and despair, is not a prayer. It is an accusation. You are accusing God of abandoning you, yet the Bible clearly states that He will never forsake you. Hebrews 13:5, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." This is not a conditional promise, it is God's oath. The problem isn't that He isn't helping you. The problem is that He is helping you in a way you cannot yet see. Job asked the same question when he lost everything. But notice God didn't answer Job's question. He revealed Himself. And when Job saw God, the question no longer mattered. Instead of asking, "Why aren't you helping me?" say this, "Lord, open my eyes so I can see that your hand is at work right now. If you do this, I'll serve you." This is bargaining with God, and it's far more dangerous than it seems. I've met many believers who say things like, "Lord, if you heal me, I'll go to church every week." Or, "If you fix this financial situation, I'll give more." Or, "If you give me that job, I promise I'll serve you." This resembles faith, but it's actually a bargain. And you don't bargain with God. He's not a merchant. He's the King of Kings. I'm thinking of Jacob in Genesis 28. After seeing the ladder reaching to heaven, he said, "If God is with me, then the Lord will be my God." Do you hear the word "if"? Jacob was setting conditions for God. And notice, God didn't accept Jacob's conditions. He blessed him anyway. But Jacob struggled for years until he truly understood that we serve God's agenda, not our own. God knows I'm weak. This is the most insidious statement on this list because it sounds humble and honest. In reality, however, it's an excuse many believers use to continue a sin. They have no intention of giving up. I knew a brother, someone who truly loved God in his own way, but he had a habit he hadn't been able to break for years. Whenever someone said something to him about it, he always gave the same answer. God knows I'm weak. He understands me. Yes, God knows your weakness, but He doesn't leave you stuck in it. He calls you out of it. Romans 6:1-2 asks directly, "What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin so that grace may abound?" By no means. God's grace is not a license to remain in sin. It is the power to escape it. When you say, "God knows I'm weak," and use that as an excuse not to change, you're not accepting His grace. You're rejecting His power. This can't be God's will. This is the most dangerous thing to say when God has already clearly guided you on a matter. There are moments in life when God clearly guides you through His Word, the Holy Spirit, or the counsel of godly people. But when the path is difficult, costly, or frightening, you tell yourself, "This can't be right. God would never ask this of me." I'm thinking of Jonah. God spoke clearly, "Go to Nineveh." But Jonah convinced himself that this path was wrong and went in the exact opposite direction, and we all know what happened next. The 3 days he spent in the belly of a great fish were not a random punishment. They were the consequence of saying no to God's clear command. Matthew 7:21 offers a serious warning. "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven." God isn't looking for people who say the right words. He's looking for people who obey at the right moment. Don't let fear allow you to label your own disobedience as God's will. 6. Lord, I've done my best. This may seem like a statement of surrender, but it actually closes the door to God's miracle. There is a critical difference between laying your burden at God's feet in faith and giving up because you no longer believe He can do anything. When you say, "I've done all I can," if you say it with a sense of hopelessness and resignation, you are placing a limit on God's infinite power. I think of Mary and Martha when Lazarus died. When Jesus finally arrived, Martha said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." This was a subtle way of saying, "It's too late now. There's nothing that can be done." But Jesus did not accept that limitation, and Lazarus walked out of the tomb. Ephesians 3:20 reminds us, "To God, who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us, He can do far more than you could ever ask or imagine." So instead of saying, "Lord, I've done all I can," say this, "Lord, now it's your turn." Closing. The words you speak to God are not just prayers. They are declarations of your faith, your understanding of who He is, and what you truly believe He can do in your life. The 6 statements we discussed today are not unforgivable sins. God knows your heart. He knows you spoke these words out of pain, weakness, or misunderstanding. But when you know better, you must do better. Proverbs 18:21 reminds us once again, "The tongue holds the power of life and death." Choose words that bring life. Speak to God, not with the language of fear but of faith, not of doubt but of trust, not of bargaining but of surrender, not of conditions but of obedience, because God hears not only the words you speak, but also the faith behind them. If this message touched your heart, write this in the comments. Lord, I choose the words of faith, a simple yet powerful declaration. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them now. Perhaps these words will change the way they pray forever.